everybody, and welcome again back to Bourbon Over Baseball, where the bourbon is always cold and the baseball is always hot. We got Kevin, the Rollie Fingers, with us today. We're going to go over the drinking game for Showdown. For some people that didn't know, you can drink during this. I hope you are drinking during this. And a lot of people like to play this with their buddies or whatever when they're at home with a little group. People have little tournaments. So there are ways to do this. And Kevin, one of my friends here, who has been doing this a lot longer than I have, had informed me that he did have a set of rules for this. And so I invited him onto the podcast, and I'm going to have him break it down and hopefully have everyone else get a great experience while playing Showdown and drink responsibly according to the rules. I got myself, I'm drinking me some Maker's Mark. Kevin, what are you drinking over there?
So I'm actually not drinking bourbon. I'm drinking some leftover Heineken from a New Year's party I threw.
It's aged well.
It's aged very well.
So Kevin's been playing this since the original Showdown. I think if everyone's been paying attention to the podcast, they've heard him before when he did his team breakdown for the Rollie Fingers. You finished in, I guess, tied for 5th, 6th, I guess, in the League of 10. Didn't make the playoffs. He was the one, if anybody read the blog, lost on the Russell Martin home run in Game 3. But
I think we understand, Bob. We don't have to bring that up again.
Okay. Sorry, tough wounds. But he was nice enough to put together this drinking list for me for Showdown. So if you want to break down how the tournament itself sort of sets up.
Yeah. So first of all, this is the first time ever doing a tournament. I think it's maybe just give a little background of the drinking game of itself. So I started at Ohio University in the dorm rooms. The original owner of the Butch Huskies, James, was one of my roommates, and we both had this mutual interest of MLB Showdown. We actually used to hate each other in high school, and we both found out that we were actually really big baseball nerds and liked Showdown, so we bonded over that. And then we decided to turn our favorite childhood game into a college game by bringing some Keystone Lights into the equation. And we just started playing this drinking game and made up our rules on the fly, and we kind of took the original Showdown rules and kind of tailored them to make it more realistic. And it's very similar to Bob, your rules. Just a couple of different caveats that we talked about before.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited that we've actually typed up these rules on paper, and we're actually getting more than just James and I in our dorm room to do this tournament.
And so, even it sounded like some of your buddies who are coming in about a month are excited to maybe try it as well. Yeah.
So in recent years, I just started anytime we were home from college or something. We just would play this drinking game, this tough games with cards that I had. I don't have quite a full set, but I got most of one. But in college, James he had like 4 copies of every card in 2000, 2001.
I think he has 3 of now because I bought like a whole set from him basically.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I never actually did like a real tournament. We just did just like a best of 7 series every once in a while, like a little round robin or something with 2 or 3 people.
Now, so what I heard from you guys especially was when you were doing the rules was that you do sort of need a Keystone Light type of beer here. I mean, there is a lot of drinking.
Yeah. So real quick story here. One time I was playing this in the dorms, and I'd forgotten that I had told some people I would play like a pickup game of sand volleyball with them. And this is like my freshman year of college, and we had gone through a couple 7-game series, and I was feeling it pretty well. And like, I guess they had talked me up as being a volleyball player. They're like, oh, this guy's on the club volleyball team, he's really good. And then I got to the sand courts, and I was pretty drunk, and first ball came to me, and it like went up real high in the air, and I went to try and like set it, and I spun around in a circle and fell and face planted into the sand, and I just heard the people being like, "This is the guy that they said was on the team. Like our team must suck." And it was all because of the Showdown drinking game. So
yeah, well, and for people at home that don't know, that's actually how I met Kevin, was through volleyball. We both played volleyball together, and I've had my share of drunk sand volleyball games. But one day we were playing board games, and Kevin knew that I had bought a bunch of baseball jerseys and asked me if I ever played Showdown, and I had my Clutch baseball cards with me from the other game that basically is a Showdown newer version, which is Clutch Baseball. Ever since then, we sort of got the league together, his friends, my friends, and sort of grown. So it's been pretty fun.
yeah. So I apologize for that quick side story. I completely forgot what your question was originally.
My question was, how does the game actually start? Now, again, people at home will be reading this hopefully along, or maybe you didn't even listen to the podcast, but I'm hoping you do. As we will be drinking through this podcast, as you should too while listening. But it does have a tournament set up with hypothetically 8 teams. Now, again, at home, you got 4 guys. You could even do this, like Kevin said, just him and his buddy, 7-game series. But for this tournament that we have in about a week, we will have at least 8 people at this tournament. So this first part will be part of it. So break this tournament setup down.
Yep. So we'll just assume for the sake of this podcast that there's 8 teams. We'll do a bracket style, and the first seed is. We'll explain the draft in a little bit, but there's a blind draft where you pick players out of a box randomly, and after you compile your team, the team with the most amount of total points will be the 1 seed, and then the second most be 2 seed, and so on.
I actually like that, by the way. I was debating before seeing this list how I was going to have people draft and sit around the table, and if I was just going to pick random who was the first seed. And people will find out this in a second. With the blind draft, it's kind of fun to see who got the most points in their team, and then that actually does seat you, which I think is a really clever way to do it.
Yeah, again, like I've never had this tournament, so that was just, got the creative juices flowing last night.
Must have been that aged Heineken.
It was that aged Heineken, So figured the first, the early rounds will be best of 3 series, home, away, home. And then the World Series will be best of 5, where it'll be a home, home, away, away, home. So all the games, if you've been following the podcast, will go along with Bob's rules. And Bob actually has a couple of new rules, which I'm sure you'll explain here in a little bit. And then I had to put the last one in here. Where, Bob and Stacy reserve the right to kick out any unruly odors at any time. You guys got 2 kids, and I'm sure a bunch of adults drinking beer, drinking bourbon, and playing a baseball card game can get a little too rowdy over there.
Yeah, she usually, and my wife's super supportive of all this, and so does my kids. And my daughter loves coming down and doing celebrity dice rolls, which Kevin has seen the wrath of those rolls. But yeah, if anybody's obviously being a jerk, anybody doing their house rules should kick that person out. The idea of any type of showdown, this isn't serious, folks. You're here to have fun. Dice are random. I mean, if you lose, you lose. This is the way of the dice. So don't worry about it. Have some fun. Drink with your buddies. But yeah, I love this 8-round draft bracket where the seeding is based on the points. Best of 3 is the only way to do this determine-wise. I think it's great. And obviously the World Series can be really hyped up. And obviously I do AL only because I can't stand the DH, though Kevin likes having the option of DH. You guys at home can do whatever you want. I choose AL. I think that should be the way of all baseball, and people have heard me bitch about that before. Now, how does the draft itself... Oh, I guess do the team... Who I guess if we're going on the paper here, the construction is next. So a team is consistent of 20 players. Break that down, because we went back and forth on this early.
Yep. So 20 players. At least 9 offensive players. So the your batting lineup with the DH, because we're only doing AL rules because you're weak and can't do NL rules. The pitching is just like you would be with starters 1 through 4, ranked by the most points to the fourth most points. Then you have to have 1 relief pitcher and 1 closer. So together that makes up the 9 batters and the 6 pitchers there. That makes up 15. The last 5 players, that's where it'll get interesting in the draft. It's you pick them out of blindly out of a hat or out of a box, and the last 5 players can either be bench players on your offense or relievers and closers. So say you had a team of 9 players and you just you already or you got your 9 batters, and then you got your pitchers, and all you had to do was do your bench, and you got 5 first basemen. You have to have 5 first basemen on your bench.
I love it.
So it makes it interesting when drafting. I remember one of the first times I did this, I ended up having 5 catchers.
Oh my god!
I had 2 different versions of Brett Maine.
Now, for people at home, I guess the reason I was talking about, we argued early, was I had this fear that you would get like 1 relief pitcher and, like Kevin said, like 5 or 6 catchers, and that would be no fun. Well, so we added at least 1 closer in there as well. So you will have at least 2 pitchers, but I am doing, for my draft next week, the entire 2000 series set, including pennant run, and that should be, hypothetically, enough cards and enough randomness, I think, that you will get a couple relievers. I mean, this shouldn't be too crazy, but it's kind of funny that someone could get kind of boned that way.
And in the original version of the game, all of our requirements were just 9 batters and 4 starters. We didn't have a minimum amount of relievers, so it was just 7 bench players, and you could have gotten 7 relievers and no bench, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But I think this is good. 1 reliever, 1 closer, especially with a tournament. You're going to be playing a lot of games.
Well, and I want there to be the fear of you could get boned, but if you do get boned, you still can actually compete for, let's say, a game or 2.
Yeah. Also, we don't have to call it boned. That's you calling it that. Like, we can call it whatever we want.
That's I think it's the Maker's Mark talking. But you can get screwed.
I'm not looking to get boned in this tournament.
Hey, everybody, come on over. What was I gonna say now? The idea, I think, that as people listen before to my rules are you can have a reliever pitch 2 games consecutively before having to rest the 3rd game, no matter what. He is quote unquote tired. So if you did have 1 reliever and 1 closer, hypothetically you can play your best of 2 out of 3 series and not be too screwed over. You could hypothetically try to win. You know what I mean? You could win those 2 games, and then they'd have to rest for the next series. But it's
if they're still on your team.
We'll get to that, which I think is actually a really fun, intriguing rule, which will come into the draft section, which is a nice lead up. So the idea is now, as I told you before, I'm going to have a 2000 series cards and 1000 pennant cards. I think that's like 460 cards plus another 160 cards. I'm not exactly sure on the numbers, but around 600 cards. And we'll have 8 people times 20 players. That's like 160 players. There should be like 300 to 400 extra cards lying around. So there'll be a pretty fun draft. Now it's a blind draft, and even though Kevin wants me to do a bird box style with a blindfold, I think I'm gonna have just a box that you can't see into, sort of like a felt top or just a slits open. But depends. Maybe we will have the blindfold. I don't know. It depends how weird things get. But break down the actual draft itself. So how does the draft work?
So draft order will be determined by a dice roll. Everyone will roll a 20-sided die, and the top roller will get to pick first, and then it'll just be in order of whatever you rolled. Now this is a drinking game, so
That's right. Our
there's
first drinking rule.
There's going to be drinking throughout the draft, throughout in between games, in between innings, during innings. All right, so yeah, the first drinking rule is that the top roller divvies out the amount of sips to the other owners based on what he rolled. So if the top roll is 18, he just divvies out 18 however he wants to amongst the 7 other owners.
And it looks like
so
also if they tied a roll, they have to roll 24-sided dice to break that tie.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
And people that don't know, I have played Clutch, which I do enjoy. I still like my original Showdown. I love the idea of their mistake pitch in Clutch, which gives this sort of 24-sided power die roll, which I think adds a crazy fun element and a sort of exciting draw to having a 1. So a mistake pitch in my league is if a pitcher rolls a 1, it's an automatic mistake pitch. The batter gets to choose if he wants to use 24-sided dice. Obviously, he probably should. It's better odds. But it becomes more of there's an excitement that becomes from it, and there's a sort of sadness when you roll that 1. So I will have 24-sided dice all over the place, and so that is part of to break the tie. But after that, yeah, snake draft, and then what else?
Yeah, so we sort of alluded to this earlier. All the available players are put upside down in a box. Just basically, you're not allowed to look who you're drafting.
Yep.
Everything's mixed up. I know in the previous draft that we had, Bob, you would kind of organize by position, by point value.
Yeah, I get a little weird.
That all gets thrown out the window, and all of it gets mixed together. Because we just want a completely random draft, and it's exciting when you're sticking your hand in a box and you're blindfolded, or and you have no idea what you pull out, and you're like, oh wow, I got Larry Walker, and the next time you're like, oh damn, I got Mike Bordick, even though I love Mike Bordick.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably gonna pick Dave Magadon.
Yeah, Dave Magadon's awesome. Right?
I know, that's what I'm saying, and I was thinking like, who else could you have picked? But I wanted to say Andre Ethier, but he was a different league or different series. But that's one of Kevin's favorite players from last round.
Yep. So you must pick one player per round. Every owner must pick one player. Now, based on that team, this is where it gets fun with the draft. Based on that team roster, I mentioned 20 position players, at least one of every position plus a DH for batting, so it was 9 there, and then 4 starters, 1 reliever, 1 closer. You have to keep picking. If you already filled up your bench spots and all you need left is a second baseman or a third baseman, you keep picking until you get one of those positions. If you already have everything filled except second and third base, and say you pull out Pedro Martinez, you got to throw him in a discard pile. And not only can you not take him because you had already filled up your pitching and your bench, but no one else in the tournament can take him as well. So it's kind of it makes the whole draft interesting, not just while you're picking, but while other people are picking, because you have to look and see, oh man, they ruined my chance of getting Pedro Martinez.
Yeah.
So
I love the strategy. I mean, I love the idea. When he first explained this to me, people at home, I thought it was great. He was saying the same exact thing he's telling you is like, can imagine having just your 4 random pitchers. You got like Chano Park, Oral Hershiser, whatever, and you've already filled out your starters. And then you go to fill your second baseman. Remember, you'll pick 1 card per round, hypothetically. So I've picked my first round. I come back, pick the second round, third round. Now I'm in the 15th round or something like that. And I already have all my starters picked. And I only have second base left or something. And I pick out Pedro Martinez. Wham! Sorry, he doesn't make your roster. You've already filled it. He goes to the discard pile, like Kevin said, and you got to pick again until you can get a second baseman. I mean, this could be devastating to watch, like the all-stars from the steroid era just being thrown over while you're just looking for anybody that can play.
Yep. And it also sucks if you're down to your last third baseman or something, and you get someone horrible, but you don't have any bench spots left, so you have to take that person.
Yeah.
So any card that you add to the discard pile. So you're searching for, second baseman. You're looking for that Terry Shumpert to pop up, but he doesn't. You're still discarding. You're discarding. Every time you discard into the pile, that's a sip of your drink.
That's where our second rule comes in. You got 1 sip per every card thrown to the discard pile for yourself. So obviously you don't want to be doing that, but I don't know. And again, I've never done this before, so I'm pretty excited to see. Will this be like a train roll where people, if they play the card game like, ride the bus, you're just like riding the bus. You just you go into town. I got 10 straight people in the discard pile, and I'm drank almost half my beer, and we haven't even started playing Showdown yet. The next, so that's basically how the draft works. And then once we get through everybody, everyone has their team. They will add their point values to determine their seeding and who plays who. I have enough game boards to actually play all 8 players, all 4 games at the same time. So that should be pretty fun. I'm gonna try to have one of them live streaming, which will be the featured table. But the idea, I think, being that that everyone can play at the same time and drink at the same time is going to be fantastic. And there is a rule also for the playing table that all surfaces have to be keystone resistant. And I think that was a great rule. I think all my mats are sort of keystone resistant. They're all laminated or hard covered, as people have seen online, I think. I even have one that's like a mouse pad material. That will be the featured table, but I think that's a great rule for the actual gameplay itself. Now, it's funny enough, we as we finished the rules earlier in the day, I kept thinking, what else can we do as like a bonus risk reward? Well, I guess Kevin was thinking the same thing. So, Kevin, break down. Okay, I guess people that don't know this, for our last draft, which we did 2,000 cards, 2,000 cards in a draft, it was a mega series draft. A lot of people showed up, like rocking their favorite baseball gear, and Kevin especially, and so did I. Obviously, I own a lot of jerseys, and we both had this idea that maybe that can be something that's a risk reward. So break down what the wearable attire reward is.
Yeah. So we threw in an extra little risk versus reward thing here, where owners who wear a jersey of a player or bring some paraphernalia or some trinkets of a draftable player. I added that because I have a Jason Kendall, Brian Giles lunchbox from the Pittsburgh Pirates era. That I was going to bring with me because that's where I store all my Showdown cards.
There you go.
And if you bring anything like that or wear a jersey and you get drafted, that you draft that player. So like say I'm holding my Jason Kendall lunchbox and I draft Jason Kendall. Every that player, so Bob picks Jason Kendall, then I have to drink 10 sips.
I lost you for a second there, Kevin. Let me just break that back down to everybody. The first thing he was saying was that if you had Jason Kendall on your lunchbox or you wore your Vlad Guerrero jersey, as Kevin has, and you draft that player, you picked him out of the box, you get to give out, we changed that. Every other owner drinks 10 sips, which is fantastic. It's such a big reward for, wearing that jersey and grabbing that player. Now, the odds are, 1 in 600 that you're going to get that player, but I think it's a great, fun thing. But with every big risk or every big reward, there's got to be a big risk. What's the risk?
Yeah, so if any other owner takes Jason Kendall or Vlad Guerrero, then it's a 10-sip penalty for yourself. And the last part of this is, if you say my outfield is filled and my bench is filled, and I select Vlad Guerrero and I'm wearing a jersey, and I have to put him in the discard pile, then I have to finish an entire beer or drink.
That's right. That's why I think that's like the saddest thing. So not only did before someone maybe got them, which would have hurt, but literally throwing your player away that you brought the jersey for is devastating. you obviously have to take one sip for discarding a player, but to then finish your entire drink, it just seems painful. And as Kevin knows, I'll be rocking probably a Larry Walker or Jeff Bagwell jersey, and I would be personally devastated to lose that player because my first base slot was filled or some reason. I mean, I'd be very sad.
Yeah, and if Doug Brochill is listening to this, which I know he will be, that's a chair flip moment.
Oh yeah, he's a chair flipper. All chairs we firmly planted. If Doug Brochill is in the premises.
Yeah.
So that's
should have added that to the rule.
Yeah, that's right. I should have. Yeah, and then we'll see if the wife kicks him out. So that's the draft in general. So everyone will have their players. They've taken already probably, hopefully, half a beer in, I would hope, or more. And the showdown hasn't even started yet. Now you're going to play your person that you've picked in your draft that you've been assigned to after your seeding's been done, and you'll play a best of 3 series. Now, Kevin will break down this gameplay really quick. I'm going to go grab another beer because my whiskey's already done, because I like to drink while I talk. So let me go grab a beer. Kevin, break down the gameplay while that's happening.
Yeah. So the beginning of it is just how you would start a normal showdown game. Each owner rolls the 20-sided die to determine home and away. And since this is a drinking game, every roll pretty much has some implication here. So the loser of that home and away roll has to drink the difference of the rolls. So I roll an 18, Bob rolls an 11. Bob has to drink 7 sips. So we mentioned games must be played on a laminated or any other Keystone Light resistant game board. Earlier rounds, best of 3, World Series, best of 5. We had to bring the Keystone Light in. That's how we originally played this game, in the dorm rooms. We had one other rule that I didn't put into this game because Bob, again, is no fun. He doesn't like NL rules. He only likes AL rules. But this rule was, if you're playing this game and a girl walks into the room, you have to shove the game board underneath any large furniture that's hidden. Pretend like you're just you're not playing a baseball card game.
Just hanging out with my buddies.
Because this scenario actually happened in college where, we were playing the game and someone opened up our dorm room and it was a really hot girl and we were just like, we're not baseball nerds. You just shove the thing underneath the bed, just like start drinking our beers. Like, oh, yep, what's up?
Yeah, we're just going out to party. Now, and the reason I didn't do this is like, one, my daughter is always hanging out because she likes to roll the dice and she likes the atmosphere. So, one, that doesn't work. And then my wife obviously will be coming around a lot, I'm sure, if she's home, and that sort of doesn't work as well. Plus, let's not be sexist, Kevin. If any girls want to come play Showdown with us, you're perfectly fine. We'll invite you in here.
That's true. That is very true.
But don't flip my chairs.
Yay.
All right, so where'd you leave off? Sorry, I jumped in the middle.
No, you're good. You're good. So basically, the majority of the drinks in this game are going to be determined by the pitching team at the end of each half inning. So you got to keep track during the whole half inning of how many total bases you give up, and at the end of the half inning, that's how many sips that you drink. So if you gave up like 4 runs and you left the guy on first and second, then you're drinking 15.
Yep.
So for the batting team, though, if you have a 1-2-3 inning, you have to drink the average of the on base of the batters that recorded the outs, and this always rounds up. So I gave the example in the rules of if you had a guy with on base 10, then an on base 8, then an on base 7. The average of that is 8.33, but you'd have to drink 9 sips.
Yep.
If you strike out the side, so that the batting team has to drink double the average of their on base. Now, striking out the side doesn't necessarily have to go 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
You strike out the first 2 batters, then you can walk a guy, then strike out the 4th. But as long as you strike out 3 people in the inning, then you got to drink double the on base. And then if you do that in consecutive innings, so 1, 2, 3, or strike out the side, you have to drink whatever you drank previous inning, and then the same 1, 2, 3 and striking out the side rules for the current inning, if that makes sense.
Now, and then what do you see? Do you see the pitching team being hurt the most when you've done this in the past?
Yes, definitely the pitching team. When you're pitching, that's when you're drinking. unless you get a really bad offensive team, because that's happened to me before too, where you get like just a horrible offensive team. But for the most part, no, it's normally the pitchers drinking the most.
Okay, that's what it looks like. I mean, for every base allowed, I mean, it's just one sip. You can sort of do it as they get on base.
No, so it's actually for the end of it, because there are in mid-inning drinks as well.
Okay, so you just have to record that?
Yep, you just have to. Yep, you'll just gotta either memorize it or. It's
dice.
not that hard. It's not that hard to memorize it. Like you'll know, like if any run scored is 4 bases.
Yep.
So you'll know how many runs you gave up, and then you just the only time it gets difficult is if there's like a force out or a rounded into a double play or something.
So those were Kevin's normal rules, and one thing that I had talked to him afterwards, remember I was thinking of ways that I can add to this, or if there's anything that I have seen during my time playing. One of them, obviously, I thought was pretty cool was the jersey rule, but I kept thinking, I've seen a lot of times that people get the bases loaded, no outs, and then they didn't fucking score. And it's kind of funny to watch, and obviously great for the pitcher and sad for the batter. But I was like, can't there be something that penalizes that batter for not getting that run in? I mean, they didn't get a run in. They had bases loaded, no outs. I mean, this is devastating. In real baseball, you'd be pissed.
Yeah. So I love that idea. I was thinking it's got to be more than just the on base, average the on base, because that's really devastating. So I decided to go with the average speed of the 3 runners that are left on base at the end of the inning. So if you got like, a couple of speed A guys and a speed B guy, you're going to be drinking a lot of sips, and you deserve to, because
that's right.
You gotta get someone in.
I have this. I can see this happening. Like it goes like, walk, walk, walk for like the first 3 batters, which are usually A speed, B speed guys, and then like out, out, out right after that, and man, just going fuck. Like that's like 20 drinks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I love that, and I thought that was a great sort of caveat. I know I don't think Invader Zimmer listens to this podcast, but he especially during our season had left the bases loaded multiple times. I feel like a few of them he had them with 0 outs, but I've never seen somebody leave so many runners on base, and we sort of made it a comedy throughout the league about it, but I feel like he will get hurt by this rule the most. But so that's the half inning. So after the half inning is over, these are the drinks that are accounted for. But there are drinks during the actual game. So explain those ones.
Yep. Yeah. So right off the bat, if you're a pitcher, you can't be pitching when the batter's not in the batter's box.
That's right.
So
makes total sense.
If that card isn't at least touching the outer rim of the board, then that's a 5-step penalty if you roll it.
Now, for people at home, the people in my league know this, especially because everyone in the league. If you've played Kevin, he will take timeouts during the game. He will have pitcher mound meetings where his catcher comes out to talk to his pitcher. He has his teammates high-five each other. I mean, this is one of the most serious MLB Showdown fans that I've seen play. But it rubs off on you. You start to clap hands with your players and have your pitcher mound meetings when you're having a bad streak of rolls. And true to that, if you're not in the batter's box, what are you throwing the ball for?
Yeah. I mean, we want to try to make this as realistic as possible. So. It's just bad. It's just, I don't know. It's bad sportsmanship when you're throwing when they're not even in the box. It's just bad. It's just like It's just like I should add another one. You can't when you're coming off the field, you can't step on the mound. You can't run over the mound.
You don't step on the lines.
Yeah. So the first one's a 5-step penalty for pitching for the batters in the batter's box. And then a couple other ones. Drink the difference of any lost fielding attempt.
I actually like this one a lot.
Yep. So if you're attempting anything, double play, an outfield throw, stolen base attempt. So I gave you an example. If there's a runner on first and the batter has a speed 18 and rolls into a double play or a ground ball, infield has a +9. So in order to get the guy out at first, they'd have to roll a 10, right? Because 10 plus the infield 9 would be a 19 to beat that speed of 18. So say they rolled 7. They needed 10. They rolled a 7. They got to drink 3 sips.
Yep, and they should be penalized.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I love that rule because you are being penalized with drinks for the pain that you feel for not making that double play.
Yep. And if you roll a 1, that's just an atrocious throw. You're going to drink more for it.
Exactly. That's why I think why I like the bases loaded rule and like the 1, 2, 3 strikeout rule. Like I think when you did not finish that double play, you were like heart-ridden for it. You drink. I mean, that's part of that's why. So the same goes for obviously the outfield throws and stolen base attempts. Speaking of stolen base attempts, obviously if you guys pay attention to my rules, I used to have 5 stolen base attempts per game. That was okay because we were playing with such a big league where we had a bunch of all-star catchers. When you're playing a specific set, i.e. if we're doing this 2000 set only and pennant, there's only a few stud catchers. And with random, I mean, you're probably going to get like Sandy Alomar Jr. with a +5 arm. People are going to be running a lot, and that's not really the realistic way baseball works. So I have this thing called manager options, and it basically sits by the table, and one of them being, so basically you have 5 manager options per game. There's 3 different categories, and you can only use 3 max per category. So you have 5 total, you can only use 3 in a specific category, 1 being stolen bases. So you're allowed 3 stolen bases per game as a manager, but on the playing card, obviously on the batter's cards, they have a single plus. That does not count towards your stolen base total. You can do those as you wish, or as it happens. You get +3 to your speed in my league. Sort of a little bonus for being the batter that able to hit the single plus. But other than that, you do get the 3 additional manager options if you would like to do that for stolen bases. So there's not going to be a crazy amount of stolen bases, people, but that is my rule. Another rule that I have is obviously the mistake pitch that I was talking about earlier. If a pitcher rolls a 1, that is what is called a mistake pitch. That is from Clutch Baseball, which I really like their game. You guys can check them out. I think it's clutchmoment.com. But the mistake pitch adds this total, like almost like, well, I guess a little bit more fear because of my dice are really my house, everyone kind of leans a little bit, and my dice have really small surface area for being 24-sided dice. So they roll a lot. They roll for multiple seconds, making a very suspenseful roll. So the mistake pitch adds a lot of suspense element. You rolled the 1. Oh my God, this is crazy. They get the 24-sided dice. A huge chance to make a big play. Things can happen. So speaking of the mistake pitch, Kevin then added a drinking rule for the mistake pitch. So explain that.
Yeah. So as Bob mentioned, the mistake pitch, the 24-sided die, it takes a really long time to roll for some reason. I don't know why.
I think it's my house. Well, it's one. The surface area of the 24-sided dice is smaller on each face because they get 24 faces. So there is more. It's more circular and more spherical, so it'll roll more. But also, my house is slanted in the basement, and so it just rolls. It never.
You never told us that. That would have changed my entire strategy throughout the league.
Well, I've debated by putting salt packets or sugar packets under my table, but I think it's people have rolled uphill. It still comes all the way back downhill. The only thing that stopped these dice is usually the dice itself rolls into a player and hits a sleeve and stops. that's been what's kind of funny. But anyway, explain the rules. So besides my
Yeah.
super suspenseful rolls.
So during those suspenseful rolls, both teams actually have to drink while the die is rolling.
Yes.
The entire duration of it. But for the pitcher, in innings 1 through 7, whatever the batter rolls on that 24-sided die, as long as the batter didn't get an out, then you have to drink whatever is rolled. So if they roll a 24, you got to drink 24.
Yeah.
And that's innings 1 through 7.
Yes.
Now the stakes are raised.
People at home, the mistake pitch happens like 3 times a game, maybe per side at most. I mean, this doesn't happen a lot, though I have seen people not get any, and I have seen people get like 7. So it does average out, but this might look really devastating, but it's not as crazy as it seems. There's 1 or 2, 3 times maybe you're going to get the mistake chance. And very rarely, and actually Kevin might know this, I've actually seen more 1s rolled on the mistake pitch than 24s.
Yes, I do know this because I'm one of those people that probably got more outs on the mistake pitch than...
Yeah, so this is a Kevin's rule. This is perfect for him.
Yeah.
So anyway, continue. Sorry about that. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. That's good. So the so the stakes are raised in the 8th inning and on, obviously. So same rule applies there. You drink whatever the batter rolls, as long as it's not an out. But then if you're in the 8th inning plus, you multiply the amount of sips that you have to drink by the number of runners on base. The roll. So like if the base is loaded, then you got to multiply. You do a mistake pitch and you give the batter the opportunity. You got to drink triple whatever they roll.
Jeez.
Because in the 8th inning and on, that's big time right there.
Yeah, this is clutch time. This is under the lights. Everyone's watching at home. I love that rule. I love that being this crazy, 8th inning. We're getting wind down time. Oh my God, a mistake pitch is rolled. Holy shit. But if that wasn't enough, with the next rule, I texted Kevin immediately and was like, holy shit. Because like I was saying earlier, I love rules that the hurt of the player is responded by drinking the beer or drinking the sips of beer, responding to the pain that they feel from doing this. So explain the last mistake pitch rule.
Yeah, so again in the 8th inning and on, if you lose the lead because of the pitch rolled, then you have to finish an entire beer or an entire drink.
Love it.
Because that's just devastating.
Yes.
I mean, you're winning. You roll a mistake pitch, and it's heartbreak central.
Yeah, I just have this I have this feeling like Jose Mesa's on the mound, and like you're up 1 run and mistake pitch, and there's a runner on base, and boom, 24, 2-run home run. You gotta finish your drink and then do this multiple thing. I mean, you deserve to be punished for that, Jose Mesa. You deserve to be punished.
So then there's, from the batter's perspective for the mistake pitch, in innings 1 through 7, if they roll the 24-sided die and they record an out, that's a 10 penalty. You shouldn't be recording it out if you got 4 extra chances.
Yep.
Right? And then 8 innings, 8+ innings, it's 10 sips again, but again, you multiply by the amount of runners on base. So if you had bases loaded and you got out in the mistake pitch, you gotta drink 10 times 3, So again, finish your entire beer if the go-ahead runner was left stranded, because that's just
this one I feel is like the surrender Cobra moment. If I got a guy on 2nd and 3rd, and I'm down 1 run, and I get the mistake pitch and I roll a 2, and I'm out. I mean, my hands instantly are like surrender Cobra if I'm like the fans at home. Like I'm like, what the fuck did we just do? I mean, you deserve to drink that entire beer, and everyone in the whole league should know about it. Everyone should know about that. That's bad.
Yes.
So obviously that's just the mistake pitch, but break down the rest of the batting penalties, I guess. And some of these, again, people at home, if you've played with Kevin, Mr. Rollie Fingers over here before, you know that these are very hot buttons with him. So explain some of these rules.
They're hot buttons with me because from college on, I've played the drinking version of Showdown more than the regular version. But
some of these, what's funny is they make the game a little more realistic. You know.
Yeah. So right off the bat,
yep.
if you don't touch all the bases, if you get a double and you just put your guy in second, you don't touch first base, it's 5-0 penalty.
That's right.
Got to touch all the bases.
Kevin has called multiple timeouts, asked for commissioner rulings, umpire reviews. You know, call New York, get the review camera going. Did he touch first base? Because if not, I'm throwing it to first base.
Yep.
So I always find it very comical, and I think it's great that you have a 5-0 penalty for not touching the base, as you should, people. You can't score if you didn't touch first base. Obviously,
exactly.
You got to go around the bases. But the next one, I mean, I laughed out loud literally at work when I was reading this next one, not this last one, but I couldn't stop laughing, and I texted you immediately and was like, "Is this real?" But I laughed, and obviously, to Kevin, it's real. So people, please follow the rules. Make sure Kevin explain this next rule.
Yeah, if you get a hit and there's already a guy on base, you can't pass another runner in the base path. That's 5-0 penalty.
Yeah, what is this, T-ball?
Also a recorded out. All right,
that's what I love.
You gotta play by the rules.
I love the I love the recorded out. This isn't T-ball, people. This is MLB Showdown.
Yep, and that also applies to if you say you hit a grand slam.
That's right.
You can't cross up someone else in the base path.
Yeah, this ain't rookie ball.
Yeah. So, that's 5-0 penalty.
That's right. I love the recorded out. I think that's a nice element.
Yep.
I think it's also nice. I can see, and I don't. Again, I know you've only done this really as 7-game series, but I can imagine now an 8-man tournament going to the World Series. Some people are pretty drunk.
Exactly.
Somebody hits the grand slam. They are pretty pumped up.
Yep.
And they kind of fuck up with 2 outs there, and they cross paths. That's an out, buddy.
That's part of the reason for the rule, yeah.
Print it in ink. So I think that's really fun, and I love that rule, and I think it just kind of makes it, again, people, this is fun. It's supposed to be joking, and it's supposed to be fun. Drink your beers with your buddies. Let's all have a good time, be happy in life. The rest of these rules, as you go down for the batters, this next one's sort of reminiscent of what we just talked about the pitching.
Yep, so for the pitching, you had to drink the difference of any lost fielding attempt. Same applies for the batter. So same scenario, runner on first, batter with speed 18, rolls a ground ball, and at infield with +9, attempts to turn the full play. From a batter's perspective, you're safe if they roll a 9 and under. So say the infield rolls a 17, you got to drink the difference of that, which is 8.
And you deserve to do it. If you got Mark McGwire speed C up, and he gets his slow ass thrown out, sorry, buddy, you had him on your team. You gotta start drinking. So I love that as well. I like the penalty for not being able to do it. So it's almost like anytime adult play is happening, somebody's drinking, which I think is lovely, obviously, for the idea of this drinking tournament. And the main reason I have these drinking tournaments or drinking events is to just have fun with your buddies. What I wanted to do, especially for Kevin and some of my other friends, is we're gonna have one for 2000, one for 2001. I had the entire 2014 set. I'm probably gonna do one for 2014, and obviously people following at home know that I'm making 2018 with Peter and Matt right now, and the idea is that you would also be able to play this with 2018 to get familiar with the cards. Sometimes nobody ever picks up. I mean, Dave McAdine didn't even know it was a card until Kevin played them, and I love that guy now. So it's like I didn't even know some of these cards existed, and it's a fun way with the blind draft to sort of get familiar with cards you didn't know and just drink with your buddies.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of it, is getting familiar with the cards that you don't know.
Yeah, and then there's always the fun strategy if like random player X hits a home run that you never would have thought. Like, you remember that time in the World Series that guy hit the home run? I think that's another fun.
Like for me, Brent Maine, he was my superstar.
That's right. So the next drinking rule, I'll break down really quick. Again, back to my manager options here. The three manager options I have categories are stolen bases, sack bunts, and intentional walks. We do not play with strategy cards. If you at home play with strategy cards, I'm sure you could tweak these rules to do that. But what I've noticed is it slows gameplay down. It takes too long, and I don't think it actually adds enough to the game. I've seen the scores of these games. They seem very realistic. The stats that players get are very realistic to what they really are in cards. What I like is
underneath here. Yep.
Well, some people a little bit maybe more overpowered than others, or overvalued or undervalued than others. But I like the idea of if the manager themselves has more options, or if the rules you have, your house rules, have more options for ground ball outs, advancing runners, etc., you can actually sort of incorporate the strategy of a strategy card within the natural rules, and the gameplay flies. If you don't keep, I keep stats, but if you don't keep stats, games take 20 to 30 minutes tops. So I think these rules that you can have on the side sort of help the game flow well without creating the strategy card slow down. So obviously we explained stolen bases already, but we'll go over sack bunts now. But intentional walks is another one. You guys can listen to different podcasts of mine about rules. But intentional walks is a different one that is a different option of mine. But sack bunts, a little different. I used to have, you could just sack bunt whenever you wanted. If you wanted to sack bunt, you just say you're sack bunting, as long as it's not a suicide squeeze. You cannot sack bunt if a runner's on third base. But if you wanted to sack bunt, runner on first, you take the out, the guy advances. I like that rule because I think sack bunts happen a lot. But Kevin was playing a different rule in his leagues where the sack bunt, to do it, you'd have to roll a 20-sided dice, and if you rolled a pop-up on the pitcher's chart, you actually physically popped up to the batters, which I really love, or to the field, and that's actually an out, and nobody advances. I absolutely love that rule. I think it's a great rule to have. I know Clutch has a different rule, but I think it's a great little caveat, so you still get the probability very, very high that you're going to get the sack bunt, which is realistic. But, you know, there is that really small chance that you could pop up to the pitcher, and that sucks. And that rule applies here. So you want to call for the sack bunt, you got to roll a d20 on the pitcher's chart. If you pop up, you're out. No runners advance. If you don't, anything else is considered the sack bunt. You advance every runner one out, every runner one base, and you are out at the plate for the sack, or out at first, I guess, sack bunt. So with that, I'll jump in here, Kevin. You get a 5-sip penalty if you actually popped up to the pitcher on that sacrifice bunt.
Yeah, because it really does suck when you.
I mean, I'm trying to think
when you think you're being a smart manager and it just backfires on you.
I'm using the great chart
that Memorial Michael Martinez rule, because he couldn't lay down a bunt to save his life for the Indians in the 2016 playoff.
I mean, I love the rule because realistically, what do you have, like a 10% chance of doing it? Very slim. Usually, it's like two pop-ups per pitcher, unless you have that guy that you had from 2001, like, what's his name, Onan, or
Onan Masaoka. Don't try to bunt on him.
Yeah, don't bunt on that guy. He's got like 6 pop-ups on his chart, but and everybody can look that card up. It's a really fun card, but majority of the time, 10% chance. So it's a really rare, but boom, you deserve to be penalized. You try to be the smart owner. You didn't get it. Boom, 5 sips.
Because I mean, realistically, a bunt isn't automatic.
Yep.
Especially now, they don't teach bunting anymore.
Yeah, unless you're a
pitcher. Be old timer yelling at the young guns for not learning how to bunt. But it's just realistic. You're not going to get a bunt successful every time. So you're gonna get penalized for it.
Now, explain the last one in the batters thing is just a really simple one. Explain that one.
Yep. So if you get the advantage as a batter, and you roll out on your own chart, then you just got a 5-sip penalty.
Yep. So really simple. I mean, obviously it sucks. You got the advantage, and boom, you rolled on your own chart. You had only a couple outs, and you rolled it. It sucks. Take a swig, or I guess a mouthful, and you boom, you stunk it out there.
Yep.
Obviously, if you go down further on this chart, both teams, obviously we talked about earlier. This really sort of only applies to my table, but if you're at home, if you have the same scenario, you can play it as well, but drink the entire duration of the 24-sided roll. So as he's about to roll, both players tip that beer up, start drinking, because my dice roll for, I'm not joking, people at home, like 3 seconds?
More than that.
Yeah, I mean, it
More than that.
it is a true 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the dice, it is very long. The roll is very suspenseful, and it's not an exaggeration. It is kind of awkward as you wait for this thing to stop rolling. So I think that's a fun roll that you drink to duration. But there is one caveat that I absolutely can't stand is when people roll the dice off my table. I always like rip on them for being super aggressive and super excited. Don't roll the dice on the table, people. Keep the dice on the table. You have so much room to roll on. Roll sideways. So Kevin added the 5.
Yeah, coming from the guy with the slanted house.
I get it. You know, hey, guard the table, or let that guy roll it off the table. But I think it's fun or funny when people do roll it off the table, and I think you should get penalized. It's basically like replacing the ball. Like maybe you put a little spit on it, throw you a new ball. 5-sip penalty, real quick, and you gotta take that. So sorry, people. Now.
We actually had that rule in college too. Like, you had brought it up yesterday, but I'd totally forgotten about that. We had that same rule.
I actually think that's a fun rule because when the dice just falls to the table, it's like, oh, sorry, drink that 5 sips. I'm sorry you're already drunk, but you got to keep drinking.
Yeah, really, it was just annoying. So I'm like, stop doing that. Just drink.
Well, there are people that I know in my league that have a very high toss, like they whip their hands up, and it seems cool when the dice rolls, and I don't mind it, really. Except for if the dice roll the table, now they have to re-roll, delays gameplay. All I'm trying to do is sort of, obviously we're trying to find more ways to drink, because this is a drinking tournament. So it's just a nice, fun penalty. But there is only one more drinking rule, and that is for the losing team that drinks 1 sip for the run differential that they lose by, but you multiply it by the game number in the series. Now, Kevin, does that matter for the division or the what do I say? Like if you're in the semifinals or finals, or just okay,
the whole tournament. So if you game 3 you lose 10-2, you got to drink 24.
No, what I mean is it any different from round 1, round 2, or round 3?
No.
Okay. Okay, so basically, people at home, if you lost in game 2. 10-2, 8 drinks times 2. So very simple rule. You're the losing team. You deserve to drink. Sorry about your luck, but there are sort of fun implications that are not drinking related that happen after each game. So explain what happens after the game's over.
Well, I will in a sec. I just want to say one more thing about that run differential. Part of the reason that it was incorporated was because it kind of, when you have pitchers, like relief pitchers, a lot of times when you go down early, like
good point,
7-0 or something, a lot of people will just keep their pitcher in so they don't tire other people out.
Absolutely.
Right. So like I won a game with Eric Bedard. I won like 22-2 because I think I was playing your brother. Right. He just kept his relief pitcher in for like 4 or 5 innings with negative upon negative control, and this sort of kind of stops that, because you don't want to, if it's game 2 and you're doing this, you're saving up your guy for a game, your relief pitchers for game 3. Well, if you just keep losing and losing and losing, you're down 15-2 or something, that's 26 sips.
Yeah.
Even more implications when you're in the World Series and say it's like a game 4 and you want to rest up your guys for game 5. If you're getting your ass kicked and you lose by 20, that 80 sips.
Well, that's what I think. I don't think it's going to stop me, because I'm going to rest my players because I want to win the game. But man, does that fucking hurt to get penalized like that.
Exactly. Like, yeah, right. I'm probably the same way, but like, I know I'm going to get fucked with the drinks.
Exactly. You're sort of like, I need to rest my fucking players, but damn, 20 sips after this game is going to really hurt.
Right.
And we'll all patiently wait while you drink that drink.
Yep. Now, it does suck for the people that only have 2 relievers.
Yeah, exactly. The people get screwed over.
But that's part of the fun with this. Like that, I mean, again, I've played 7-game series where, like, the beginning, the first draft, only had 4 starters and no relievers.
Yep.
But again, we're doing a one reliever, one closer, which I actually like. I was thinking about that too after I made these. Like, it should probably be one of each.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the after the game. So the winning team blindly selects one new player from the non-discarded pile. Again, all discarded players are gone for the entire tournament. Pedro Martinez is out. You can't have him at all. No one can.
Now, the only thing I'll add to this is because I'm doing a specific... Again, it's my first time ever trying it. People at home, if you guys do this before I do, let me know how it works out. But I am doing just 2000 pennant, which is about 600 cards. If for some reason we get through all those cards and discarded, I'm going to add the 2001s to the pile to get drafted. But I have a feeling that we're not going to run out. But if we did, that's what I'm going to do, and we'll try to learn from our mistakes. But yeah, once Pedro Martinez is discarded, he's gone. He ain't coming back, people.
So as a winning team, you have the option of the player that you chose. You actually have the option of either replacing one of your existing team members or not, or putting it back in the discard pile.
So do you get penalized 1 sip for throwing in the discard pile even if you won?
No. That's a great question.
Okay.
I'm going to go no on that.
Yeah, I think so too. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that's a great call though. But I mean, it's 1 sip, so who cares?
Man up. Man up.
Yeah. Now the losing team, we already mentioned after the game, have to drink 1 sip for each run if they lost by, and then multiply it by the game number in the series. But then they blindly select one player from the non-discarded pile, but they have to use that card.
I love it.
So you might think, all right, what's the big deal? Well, there is a big deal. Say you only had one shortstop, and it was Alex Rodriguez, and you pulled a shortstop, and I keep using Mike Bordick, even though I love him. He's one of my favorite players in the game. But if you pick Mike Bordick, you have to replace A-Rod with him. You have to put A-Rod in the discard pile.
Now, I wonder one thing now that I'm looking at this, and obviously I've been drinking a little bit, people at home. I've already gone through a Boston Lager and a couple of drinks of Maker's Mark. But why wouldn't you just switch that guy to DH? Now, are you forcing them to play the position?
That's true. You could put him at DH. Yeah.
But I wonder if it's more devastating to force them to do it. You know what I'm saying?
No, you could put him at DH, but what if your DH is like someone really good as well?
Well, my and again, people, we're sort of discussing this live now, but my question is, I love Jeff Bagwell. People know this. I drafted him, and I put him at first base. My DH is garbage. I lost a game. I pick up a first baseman. I'll just put him at DH, and vice versa. If for some reason he was my DH, I'd just put the other guy at first base. I wonder if it's more devastating you have to use that guy at the position that's on his card, because there are DH people in the set.
Yeah, there's not as like, I don't know. Are there 8 DH people?
No, but what I'm saying is you lost the game. You picked up a third baseman. He's got to be your third baseman, not your DH. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what we could do is like say this scenario where you just shift A-Rod to DH. We could do, if it happens, if you get a shortstop the next time you pull out a card, like, then you have to get rid of them. Like, you can't like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, but then you might have to keep track of everyone's teams, and I've been drinking this whole tournament.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is it more devastating? Because the only way this is devastating, in my opinion, is if I have A-Rod as my shortstop and, like, Derek Jeter as my DH, and then I draft a shortstop, then obviously I'm putting him at DH and I'm losing Derek Jeter, which sucks, but
right.
Then I get hurt. Other than that, you're just sort of flip-flopping whatever one hurts you less. Which maybe that's okay. Maybe we shouldn't hurt the team that badly. But I feel like, man, is it devastating? Let's say you had Scott Rowland as your third baseman, and he's a stud.
Yeah.
And then you drafted some garbage third baseman. You had to replace your third baseman and not your DH. Like,
it's I guess it's the most devastating if you have, like, Yeah, no, you're right though. Yeah, you just move into DH.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think because there are DH people in the league, there are. I'm trying to think of who's a DH only person, but there are a few, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like Chili Davis and
Isn't like Rafael Palmeiro one or something, or is he?
Jose Canseco.
Yeah, Jose Canseco. I'm just trying to think, but I'm trying
Almeida Thanes.
Yeah, so the idea is like, if then you get that guy, then boom, he has to be your third. Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at Mark Quinn.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe if you have a DH,
Edgar Martinez would be nice, but
how about this? If you draft a DH, you have to have him at DH. So
well,
like
you should.
This A-Rod situation, if you already have a DH, then you have to get rid of A-Rod. But if you don't have a DH, then you can move A-Rod to DH.
So
how about that?
If your guy is playing DH already, and he's a DH only guy, explain.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. Yeah, why don't we do that? Like your first, yeah, you have to just declare, and that's a little bit of strategy then too. Like you have to say who you're declaring as DH, because if you, yeah, because then that'll dictate like say you had 3 shortstops on your bench. Like you want to make one of those your DH then, because for this, yeah, how do we do that? You kind of get what I'm saying though. Like if you get a DH spot, you have to use it as a DH. But if you don't get a DH player, then you have to declare before the first game who your DH is, and then that person is only DH, cannot be moved back to a position player, or he just eliminates. Say you had 2 shortstops and you made one of them your DH. The one that you made DH is a DH. He's never a shortstop anymore.
You can't move him back.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the rule. I don't mind that. I think they're just. I think that's the way you have to do it, so that you then later on, if you get a shortstop like you were saying, you can't just flip flop and throw your other shortstop back in. You declared him as the DH.
Right.
I think that's the way you're going to have to do it, and that where it's sort of devastating, but not. It's not like crippling.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. So people at home, that the rule that he's trying to do is he's just trying to make sure that people get a little hurt from the losing the game. They sort of have to go back and mess around a little bit, but with their team chemistry, which is fun. I think the tournament's kind of fun. Then Rafael Palmeiro is another DH, but it's kind of fun to think that during the game your team might change a little bit, which I think is really fun. Also, Kevin, I don't know if you know this, but I'll be having a couple people in my league, player-wise, that are reprints, a.k.a. What's his face? Glenn Allen Hill and Jeffrey Hammonds.
Esteban Yan.
Not Esteban Yan, but Roberto Hernandez, I think it is. Those guys that were like 40-point players that really weren't 40-point players and stuff like that.
Right.
So my people at home, I've reprinted them and fixed. I don't like the idea of some of these people having these BS stats. So I fixed a couple of them. So it is what it is. And then so the last thing is the starting pitcher thing. Explain that really quickly and we'll wrap this up.
Well, I just wanted to go back to the select one player at the end of each round. So like originally, I had to tweak these a little bit. That's why this one's not really. That's why I was still iffy on that one. When we just did 7-game series in the dorm rooms, we actually did the losing team had to take whatever game number it was. That's how many cards they got. So like if it went to a game 7, the loser of game 6 got 6 new cards. So you really could get fucked.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had to tweak this a little bit. I can totally see how with just one card, it's interesting. Well, I think declaring an actual DH will solve that though.
Yeah, I think if someone says this is my DH, everyone knows that.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And then you draft a shortstop. If you put him in your DH, he's your DH. Etc.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see how people. Again, we're trying to make it fun, so I don't want to really piss people off either. Like you kind of screwed your team over, but it's kind of funny to say like your team sort of changes automatically even if when you lose. So it's kind of funny to like say, and the real thing is going to be starting pitching. You know, that's going to happen is you're gonna pick up a starting pitcher from the loser pool, and boom, your starting pitcher just got changed out, and obviously you're probably going to get rid of your lowest pitcher, but that could have huge implications on your lineup. And your last little caveat here is if the starting pitcher you selected, obviously if you have to keep it, or if you won and you decided to keep them, your lineup gets changed depending on what happens there. So if you drafted a guy with more points than a different guy, your 1, 2, and 3, 4 rotation sort of gets shifted. Now,
yep, it could benefit you though. You could have Chan-Ho Park as your 4th starter, and then you pick up Kevin Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Then it shifts everyone down.
Here's my question.
Yeah, if your number 1 pitcher started, and then after game 1, he moves to your number 2 pitcher.
Yep. That's my question.
Yeah, it would just go to your number 3.
That's what I thought. So, people at home, again, you guys can tweak these rules as much as you want. I hope you have fun listening. Is there anything else you want to say before I wrap this up, Kevin?
I was thinking about the subbing one player. We could make some kind of rule where it's the losing team, the one player that they drafted has to be, like if it's a position player, they have to start in a non-DH role.
That's sort of what I was getting at. Like, if you picked up the shortstop, he's got to play shortstop.
Right.
And that really hurts you when you already put A-Rod as your shortstop. So, but is that too painful? I don't know. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess you would lose a guy like A-Rod as, +5 fielding. You would lose that for a guy that's probably shittier. So
but you might benefit.
That, I guess.
I mean, you could
and then
lose
the next
benefit. I mean, that's the funny thing is you could lose the game, have Joe Schmo as your shortstop, and boom, you picked up A-Rod. Well, he's got to play shortstop. Well, heck yeah, that's awesome. So it doesn't always going to hurt. I mean,
yeah. How about this? Like they have to start in the position, and whatever position that they replace, that person has to move to DH.
Yeah, which is fine. That way it doesn't hurt too much.
If you get a shortstop 2 rounds in a row, then that forces A-Rod to be cut.
Yep. There you go. Because that could hurt your fielding too. That messes with your fielding.
Right.
That could be fun. All right, we'll do that. So again, people at home, these are just our rules or Kevin's rules with a little bit of adaptation from me. Again, I'll have a different podcast, or you guys can check out if you guys ask. I have my own house rules that I really think are beneficial for people at home that don't play strategy cards. The idea again is to drink responsibly. People do not drink and drive. Make sure you have a place to stay. People at my house can hang out a little longer. I'm probably going to bring the show over so people can play home run derby if they lost early. But the idea is, don't be a dick. Have fun. Play the game. Have some drinks with your buddies. Drink responsibly. Laugh. Play Showdown. Spread the game that you guys all love at home. And if you like, have a beer with it. This is probably the game for you. People at home that are listening, if you've already lasted this, we've already been talking for over an hour. I can't believe you made it this long. If you have comment, let me know what you would change. Let me know what you would add if you like it. And if you do play with it, let me know how your game's turned out. Did anybody get super crazy drunk? Post a video. Hit me up on Twitter at Bob Bumbarger. And I think it's Don't Think You Are. But follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you guys like. If not, just keep following me on Facebook and listening to my YouTube channel, Bourbon Over Baseball, and we'll keep posted. So thank you again, Kevin, for joining us.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me.